Hello and welcome to People and Places. I'm Umberto, and as you can possibly hear, I'm out in the lovely fresh air. I'm in Gorton. It's fabulous. It's sunny. In fact, I've got my shorts on. He lied through his teeth. No, but it's a great place. And the reason that I'm here, I'm at Belle Vue Dog Track. It's 75 years ago that the place opened. And apparently, according to the history books, when it did open, Old Trafford were staging a test match at the time, and they had to call it off after 10 balls because of heavy rain. Guess what? History is repeating itself because it's raining here as well, but that's not going to dampen our ardour. And as people say, I've gone to the dogs. Well, yes, here I am. So lots happening this afternoon. Hope you're going to be able to stay with me straight through till 5 o'clock. Lots of music, lots of guests. We'll be looking at the history of Belle Vue. And if you've got any reminiscences of what Belle Vue was like when you were a kid, we'd love to hear from you. 0161228 2255 is the number. But we're going to get into sort of like beach mode, definitely. This is the Beach Boys and Darling. On 95.1 and 104.6 FM, it's your voice, BBC GMR, People and Places with me, Umberto. And to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the dogs, yes, Belle Vue, that's where we are. It's fabulous. Right in front of me, I've got the running track for the dogs, and the inner circle apparently is for the Speedway, and hopefully we'll be talking to some Speedway buffs a little later on. Before we actually talk to the general manager of Belle Vue, John Gilburn, I just want to say on the way here, I came through Eastlands. Now, if you don't know where Eastlands is, it's the part of Manchester that time forgot. It was very run down. It was a place that was quite depressing. But I tell you something, driving through, I got like butterflies in my stomach. It's amazing. The new arenas are being built. It's a regenerated place. And I tell you something, it's going to be a real showpiece for Manchester. Stuck right in the middle of it all is Belle Vue and John Gilburn. Hello, John.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Are you very excited today with it being the 75th anniversary? You've got to say yeah, haven't you?
I've got to say, yeah, I'm more nervous than excited at the moment.
Why are you nervous?
Well, there's so much going on with radio, television, some very big races tonight, and even a pigeon race.
A pigeon race?
A pigeon race, yeah.
Listen, I hate to say this, I want to sound a real snob, but we're talking about pigeon racing, we're talking about greyhound racing, all of it handicap and working class, isn't it?
No, it's not at all. Greyhound racing's changed completely. You know, I grant you, sort of go back 5, 6, 10 years maybe, and it was very flat cap brigade.
Right.
But it's really gone up market, you know, all the facilities have improved tremendously. We've got beautiful restaurants in most of our stadia. You know, and the quality, the sort of people that come has changed totally.
Actually, it's funny you should say that, because as we were walking in, somebody mistook me maybe for one of the students, said, I want to book a table for 20 of us. I said, oh dear, very nice. As long as I'm invited, I'll sort it out for you. But it seems that there are lots of big functions here. It's almost like, I don't know, the races, the horse racing, is it the same sort of atmosphere?
It's a similar atmosphere, but it's actually, I think it's better. It's because you're closer to the action. And also something's happening, you know, we race every quarter of an hour, whereas with horse racing it's every 35, 40 minutes. But, you know, it really is exciting. You've got people in the restaurant. They can be a complete mixture. Some of them be very smart. Some will be dressed casually.
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether you bet £1 or bet £100. You know, if you bet it, you will be standing up and shouting in the middle of your meal. You know, you'll be shouting for your dog.
But how on earth did you get a job like this? Because you don't leave school thinking, yes, I want to go to a Greyhound stadium and work there.
I think, like most people, I fell into Greyhound racing. I've been in the leisure industry for a long time.
Right.
But I'd been to the dogs in the past, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I happened to see, well, I was actually approached by the managing director here and asked if I would be interested.
Oh, were you poached?
Here I am. I was poached,
Were you?
yeah.
How disgusting, you know. It's terrible, isn't it? What do you see for the future of Greyhound racing? Because, as you say, it has changed an awful lot. The image has changed an awful lot. And I've just got to point out as well at this juncture that early on in the century, Greyhound racing was quite aristocratic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And again, it's really changed. Like we said, it went sort of flat cap. But nowadays, you've got a lot of celebrities who come greyhound racing. You've got people like Vinnie Jones.
And people own dogs as well, don't they? Some of these celebrities own dogs and
they
run
do.
them.
Vinnie Jones has had a dog in the Greyhound Derby final.
Yeah, but he's hardly a good indicator. I mean, you could hardly call him classy, could you?
He's actually a great ambassador for the sport, believe me.
All right, I'll believe you most definitely. So what's happening tonight?
Tonight we've got a fantastic race card. It's all open races. That means it's top quality racing. The biggest race that we've got is a marathon. That's twice round the track. The winner will receive £7,500.
Wow.
And believe it or not, that's the highest ever prize money given for a one-off race, you know, without heats and semi-finals and
Mind
so
you,
on.
you do set things for the record books, because this is the first track that dogs ever ran in the oval shape that we see here, and it was the first place to have the electric hair as well, wasn't it?
That's absolutely right. They tried greyhound racing a few years earlier, but it was just in a straight line. It was like coursing. And, you know, the public just didn't get interested in it. They got totally bored until we started, you know, we created the bends.
Now, John, a lot of people who are listening, and I'm going to play devil's advocate slightly here, because it's a concern that I've had as well, is the welfare of the dogs. You know, lots of people think, well, do those dogs get looked after? What happens to them after their racing careers are over?
I think this will surprise a lot of people. We really do look after the dogs. Apart from donating an awful lot of money to the Retired Greyhound Trust, you know, we go to extraordinary lengths to try and find homes for the dogs. I'm actually the chairman of the Retired Greyhound Trust in Manchester. And, you know, we encourage all the owners to take the dogs home with them. If not, we will put them in our kennels and we'll actually, you know, keep them until we can find homes for them.
Now, I just wanted to allay people's sort of like maybe worries, because you hear some terrible stories about greyhounds being abandoned and thrown out. It's nice to hear that you look after them here. All that's left for me to say is have a fantastic night tonight. And I tell you what, I'm really surprised. To my shame, this is the first time that I've ever been to the dog track and speedway. So, you know, it's not what I imagined it would be. I thought it was going to be a bit rough and ready, and it's not. It's quite nice.
Well, there you go. It's just right for you then, isn't it?
Thank you very much indeed. There we go. That's John Gilburn, General Manager of the dog track here at Belle Vue. And if you're coming down tonight, I can assure you're going to have a fab time, because as I came in, they're putting balloons up and bunting and all sorts of things. And I tell you what, the menu's not bad either. Fabulous place to come for a meal and maybe a night at the dogs. It's BBC GMR 95.1 and 104.6 FM. It's your voice with people and places, and me, Umberto. People and places from Belle Vue, where they are celebrating their 75th anniversary. Yes, it's the dogs. We've gone to the dogs today. Some people would say I'm a dog, but there again, you know, that's just a matter of opinion. Joining us in a little while, we've got Simon Constable, who is our vet, of course. And if you've got any veterinary questions or anything you'd like to ask Simon at all, then don't forget the number is 0161 228 2255. But really, I tell you what I'd really, really like you to do. If you've got any memories of Belle Vue, not just the dogs, not just the speedway, maybe Belle Vue as it used to be, because I've got some fab memories. I'll share them with you a little later on. Then you can call us on the same number, 0161 228 2255. I'm sure there's loads and loads of you out there with memories of it. In fact, for me, living in Salford, in back streets of Salford, it was almost like, I don't know, Disney World, if you like. I mean, it was only like 3 miles from the city centre, just under 3 miles from the city centre. You used to get a trolley bus to it. But to us, it was fab. That was our holiday. It was fantastic. Have you got any memories? 0161 228 2255 is the number. We have got Lily, who lives in Fallowfield, on the line. Hi, Lily.
Hello.
How are you, love?
I'm fine.
That's good.
I hope you are.
Oh, you know,
I kept your weight off. We went to the same Weight Watchers club for a long time.
Did we? The one in Didsbury?
No, the one in Fallowfield.
Oh, the cricket club.
That's it.
Well,
yeah.
I dropped a couple of ton, but I put a couple back on again. How have you been
more
doing?
More than a couple of ton back.
You're not still going, are you?
No.
Oh, well, thank God for that. Listen, the trouble is, you know, it's awful, you know, when you like your food.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to restrict it. Oh, I can't be doing, love.
It's chocolate that's my downfall.
You're not a chocoholic, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you know, chocolate isn't mine. That's not my downfall. Do you know what my downfall is? Bread.
Cheese?
No, bread.
Oh, really?
I love bread. I can make a butty out of anything. I could make a butty out of a cardboard box, I'll tell you. Now, have you got any memories of Belle Vue?
Well, it's the dogs, actually.
All right.
You know, my father was the first hairdriver.
Really?
Yeah. And actually,
because that wasn't introduced, was it, till sort of a little bit after, and Belle Vue was the first place to have it?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Well, what actually happened was it was nearly all army people who were involved in the dogs, you know. But an American, Charlie Munn, he was the really moving person. But my father was employed by the contractors building the track first.
Right.
And Charlie Munn used to come over and help, take his coat off and help with the digging and everything.
Incredible.
And when they started it, my father was an electrician, so he became the hairdriver and stayed on for 36 years.
Blimey, must have liked the job. Did you ever come here as a child with your dad?
As a child, yes, but not very often, because he was working.
Oh, of course.
You know,
you don't take your kids to work, do you, really?
Not really, not in those days.
No, but you see, Lil, maybe to sort of like tire out during the school holidays, you could imagine you chasing the hare, couldn't you, really, if you think about it?
I worked on the tote when a first tote was introduced.
Did
you? Yeah, and my brother worked as a mechanic on the tote, only part-time. Because we had to have full-time jobs as well, you know.
Do you remember the zoological park?
Oh, Lord, yes, yeah. Fantastic. Because we used to live in Gorton, and the fireworks were the main thing. I mean, we had a firework display every night while the fireworks were on. We didn't go in.
No.
Because we couldn't afford to go in every night, but we'd stand outside and watch.
I'll tell you what, Lily, it used to be one of those things for me, you know, like, it was like a real big trip. We'll take you to Belle Vue if you behave yourself.
It was.
It was almost like blackmail. And you say, yes, I will. And my memory of it is going through the turnstiles, and there used to be, remember the Big Dipper?
Yeah.
And it was behind glass, and you used to stand there when it came down, the water would splash up against it, everybody screaming and running. It was fab.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
What a shame that they had to close it all down.
Well, the Big Dipper needed closing down, I think. Because, you know, I used to go to the Gorton Philharmonic concerts in the King's Hall there.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that was during the war. And as the Big Dipper came round, so it interrupted the concerts. You could hear this over the orchestra, you know.
How dare they do that?
Well, but I remember Belle Vue Zoo, mostly the smells in...
Oh, the elephant house, love.
Yeah.
Oh, you used to get a waft of that as soon as you went through the ghetto.
The lions were terrible, weren't they?
Oh, I tell you, there's a spray all over the place. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Lily, it's been fabulous talking to you, and it's nice to have somebody there that, you know, has got a connection with Belle Vue.
Yeah.
You take care, love, and keep listening.
Oh, I will.
Okay,
right.
love, bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, we've got Ken in Burnage. Hello, Ken.
Hi, Umberto.
How are you, Ken?
Oh, top of the world.
Oh, that's good. It's lovely to know. I'll tell you what, a difference in the weather from yesterday.
Oh, isn't it awful?
Well, it's not too bad.
I just started trying to tidy up the back garden. Then it comes again.
Oh, well, never mind. Don't let it stop you doing anything. Apparently, the weather forecast for the rest of the week is going to be fantastic. The reason it's rained today, Ken, is because it's the 75th anniversary of the dog track, and 75 years ago today,
rained.
It poured down.
Yeah.
So much so they had to cancel the cricket. Now, have you got any connection with Belle Vue?
Well, we used to go there a lot. We used to travel from Ashton, and we'd spend a full day at Belle Vue. First of all, going around looking at the animals, teaching the parrots to swear, going on the amusements and that. And then in the evening we'd go to the Speedway, which was on the original track. I'd come out of there in time to watch the fireworks, because they used to have a firework display, used to tell a story.
Yeah, Lily
was
on
the island.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. And of course there used to be dancing. You remember that great big wooden floor that was there near the lake?
Oh, it used to bounce when you danced on it, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you could dance there. And we used to be chatting all the girls up and make umpteen dates in one night.
You're a bit of a lad, you aren't you? You're a bit of a lad, definitely.
I was.
I bet you still are on the quiet.
But, you know, and we had a great time, but the thing was, always on the way back along Belle Vue Street, around by Ashby's, there used to be Chippy.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd go by Chips, and we used to see if we could sling a chip over Ashby's Bridge and catch it on the other side. Never did, of course. And then we'd get the late night bus part way home and then walk the rest. But the beauty was, we'd go round to my mate's, and his parents used to help out at the Sped Eagle in Ashton on a Saturday night. So we'd be there, big roaring fire right up the chimney back, and they come back with these big parcels of chips, and she was a master pastry cook. She'd be a great big steaming hot
don't
pie.
Stop.
I'm like you, I love my food.
Well, never mind, there's worse things in the world. Listen, I'll tell you what, thank you very much indeed for ringing us and giving us your memories. I'm sure we'll have lots more as the programme goes on. Hope you're going to be able to stick with us, all right?
I will.
See ya, bye-bye.
Bye.
It's People and Places on 95.1 and 104.6 FM with me, Umberto, and today we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of Belle Vue Dogs. We've got Simon Constable, our vet, coming up very, very soon indeed, so if you've got any calls for Simon, then by all means, feel free and give us a call. But now we're going to check the traffic and travel. I will survive, you bet your bippy I will. It's BBC GMR 95.1 and 104.6 FM. People and Places with me, Umberto. That record always reminds me of the film Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, I suggest you go out and rent it on video because it is brilliant. Okay, it's Tuesday, and of course, our guest, as always, is Simon Constable, our vet, with his 2 boys, Dower and Gunter. And apparently Dowie, poor boy, he's been through a bad time, hasn't he, Simon?
He has. He was castrated last week. Yeah.
How could you do that to one of your children?
Awful, isn't it?
You're a terrible, terrible man. What are your views on greyhound racing? Because it's like one of those very controversial sort of areas, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think the main problem with it that people get so upset about is what happens to them afterwards.
Right.
You know, the fact that there's quite a high loss of the greyhounds, or that's the perception anyway. And I think, obviously, people tend to be more ruthless in that if a dog won't race, there's not much point in keeping it with themselves, especially if they are trainers. Or
but do they make good pets? Because I know sort of a lot of the animal sanctuaries, there's always greyhounds there. Are they good pets?
I think generally greyhounds are, yes.
Yeah.
I think obviously they're very fit animals, they need a lot of walking, but that's just like any other dog really, it needs to be walked. So I don't see why they should make particularly bad pets.
I know this is a stupid question, I know you've never had a conversation with a greyhound, but do you think they enjoy it?
Yeah, I do. I think they have, yeah. I think they enjoy the actual running around the track and chasing. I mean, it is a natural thing to them, and we've got a lurcher ourselves. And,
oh, have you?
Yeah, we have, called Fuzzy.
Right.
Well, he was in a few weeks ago. I don't think you...
No, I missed him, unfortunately.
It was Janet.
Yeah.
And, when he's wandering around the fields, when we're taking him out, if he sees a rabbit or a hare, he'll go flying after it. And it is a natural thing for him to do, and he loves doing it. I
suppose it's like your dogs. I mean, you've got 2 dogs here that are working dogs.
Yeah, that's
I suppose it's a built-in instinct, isn't it, for them to do...
Yeah, well, they're supposed to be working dogs. So I've got to be honest.
They're a bit lazy at the moment.
They are a bit lazy,
yeah,
a bit like their own. But... yeah, it is a natural thing, and I think they do actually enjoy the racing, and obviously the fact that they're fitter and more able to to run faster and do the job helps them generally. They are well looked after. These people, there is no point in anybody who races horses, greyhounds or whatever in having a horse or a greyhound which isn't fit. So they will get the best of everything and will be in tip-top condition. So
well, that's nice to know, definitely. Listen, if you want to ring in, if you've got a question for Simon about your pet, about greyhound, about anything at all affiliated to animals, then give us a call, 0161228 2255. We would love to hear from you. It's BBC GMR, People and Places, with me, Umberto, and this is the Rolling Stones, and I can't get enough. I know what he means. The Strolling Bones and Satisfaction. It's BBC GMR 95.1 and 104.6 FM. It's your voice, People and Places. Today with me, Umberto, coming, of course, from the fabulous Belle Vue. Simon Constable, our vet, is here with me. Now, Simon, sort of when you're doing surgery, you never, ever know what's going to come through the doors, do you? Have you had anything interesting this week?
Yeah, we have. We had quite an interesting one with a breed of dog called a Dog de Bordeaux. It's quite a big, mastiff-looking dog.
Beautiful, aren't they?
Oh, fabulous-looking dog. And it had a problem bleeding. It was bleeding quite a lot, and we were worried that it may have picked up some sort of rat poison.
Oh, God.
So it was kept in and maintained on a drip for overnight, and by the next day, things didn't seem to be getting any better, despite giving it things to help the clotting, vitamin K, which we normally do. So it was decided that as there was a big lump in the abdomen that we felt was a bit suspicious, and it was operated on, and the spleen was absolutely huge. It was a massive spleen. Which
is that a real unusual case for you?
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's quite an unusual thing. I mean, what we're suspecting is perhaps some sort of tumour. Possibly, it's gone off to the lab. So until we get the results back, I shouldn't really.
Well, when you get cases like that in, and it's like a case that maybe you don't see an awful lot, do you have to sort of like that night sort of get the textbooks out and start going through them, or when you were sort of doing your training as a vet, did you ever come across it? Was it something that you spoke about?
It's quite a common thing in different
right.
sorts of dogs. In German Shepherd, well, I'm saying common. It's not uncommon.
Right.
It's not a rare thing
right.
in, say, German Shepherds to get this sort of problem. So, obviously, sometimes you do refer to your textbooks. I think
So how is he?
Oh, he's doing very well at the moment.
Is he?
Yeah, he was doing okay, and he had his spleen removed, and he seemed to rebound incredibly well. Which I noticed that with dogs, particularly, they do recover. It's almost the psychological problem, isn't there? Or the psychological effect of having an operation isn't there. So,
do you think that animals sort of like, I don't know, You know, the pain factor in human beings, we are a bit soft, aren't we, sometimes? And our pain threshold is quite low. Dogs and animals in general don't seem to have that low pain threshold.
They don't. No, I agree with you there. I think that, again, I think a lot of it is the psychological problem that we know that we have had an operation.
Right.
And we tell ourselves we should be ill, and obviously the dog isn't aware of it. And, you know, I'm talking about Dowie this week when I castrated him, you know, I knocked him out and he just was with me when he went to sleep, and I was with him when he came round, and obviously was.
And he's sat here
he's resting on my knee. He's just been tickling his ears. He's just been licking my
I think
hand.
if you'd have castrated me, I don't think I'd have been too happy with you.
I wouldn't blame you for it.
I certainly wouldn't have put my head on your knee without a shadow of a doubt. So what else has presented itself this week?
We've had quite a few things. I mean, the usual run-of-the-mill things. This sort of time of year with things like fleas and things like that.
There's loads of that around.
It's a big problem. Itchy dogs, that sort of thing. And something I mentioned a few weeks ago as well about kennel cough. We seem to be seeing tremendous amount of kennel cough.
What do you think that's due to?
I think it's just a cycle. It tends to go around this time of year. You know, obviously, well, every sort of few years it will go round, and you'll have outbreaks of it, different sorts of bugs causing it. So obviously that this year seems to be the big thing. And
I mean, does the weather play a factor? Because I mean, when it's warm, the bugs sort of like, you know, proliferate, don't they?
They can do, yeah. I mean, certainly in the case of fleas, obviously that's a major thing. In that in the winter, obviously it's a bit colder, and even though we still have radiators and central heating, which tends to keep them alive, they're obviously a lot more active in the summer. So they tend to, and also dogs are going out more and meeting each other dogs, so they're tending to
that's
pass
the socialising thing, isn't it? Yeah, you go to the park, you don't know who your dog's meet. It's like your kids, really,
yes, that's right. But certainly, with the with the bacteria point of view, they certainly can exist a lot more. There's obviously things like sunlight can cause things like ringworms, say, which is responsive to ultraviolet light. If you in sunlight, it will actually kill ringworm.
Actually, just reminded me of something that I was supposed to ask you. A friend of mine's got a Shar-Pei,
right,
and it's a beautiful dog. I love him to bits, but they have to be very, very careful with his skin. Yeah. And when it's been warm, she's been putting suntan cream on him. Yeah. Is that okay to do?
Oh,
she told me to ask
that
him.
Is very...
It's not going to damage its eyes or anything, you know, because she lifts the folds of skin up and rubs it underneath.
You've got to be careful around the eyes for obvious reasons. Right. But obviously, this time of year, really, animals are not exempt from getting sunburn. And it's especially important in things like white animals with no pigment in the skin, particularly things like cats. I think I spoke a few weeks ago about the importance of white cats. Putting some suntan, sunblock probably is the best thing to put on their ears, because otherwise they can get a type of tumour called squamous cell carcinoma of the ear, the tip of the ears.
We were talking to somebody yesterday, one of the listeners who rang in, and she was saying that she had a white cat. Now, I must be under a false impression, because I always assumed that if you had a white cat that was totally white, that they had problems with their eyes.
You mean like an albino? Certainly there are albinos,
similar.
They can have a white pigment, and they're not always associated with problems with their eyes. But they certainly are, associated with problems with the sunburn on the nose and on the ears as well.
Now, there's something I've got to ask you, because I was watching EastEnders last night. Now, one of the girls there has got two gerbils that got out and they're under the skirting boards and all the rest of it, and they lifted the skirting boards. They're going mad looking for these gerbils and all the rest of it, and they thought they were rats because she'd kept it a secret that she'd got these gerbils.
Right.
How dangerous is it if your gerbils or your pet mice get out of the cage and end up under the floorboards and behind skirtings and all the rest of it?
Dangerous for what? For you? Or?
No, dangerous for them, because, I mean, they are a pet, and obviously they don't know that they're confined to the cage. If the door's left open, they're going to get out and have a good time, aren't they?
Well, a lot of people do that. A lot of people have tame rats.
And what's the best way to sort of get them back? Do you wait till they're hungry and hope they're going to return to the cage?
It is probably the best thing. Try and catch them.
Because I was worried about those gerbils last night. I saw them running across the screen. I thought, no, please, they're going to be all right, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they should be. They make good pets, actually. Good. Rats and gerbils and little mice, which I know the mothers tend
I can see them all squirming now while you're saying that. All the mums and grands, even some fellas are probably squirming. Oh, rats and mice, oh, yuck. No.
I would say I like rats actually more than a lot of them as pets. I think they make fabulous pets because he's so intelligent. And obviously, if you get a tame rat, it's a white rat maybe that's not obviously got the risk of disease that you have with your
makes me think of Michael Jackson and Ben. Because Ben was a little rat, wasn't he? Definitely.
Yeah, that's right.
If you've just joined us, it's People and Places with me and Umberto, 95.1 and 104.6 FM. We're talking to Simon Constable, but we're going to break our little chat because we want to find out what's happening on our events diary, and Helen Brown is going to inform us.
On 95.1 and 104.6 FM, it's your voice. BBC GMR.
Thank you very much indeed to Helen there for the roundup events that are taking place in the Greater Manchester area. You've got no excuse now. You can get out and about. There's no problem at all. Right, Simon, I was talking to the general manager, obviously, of Belle Vue about the welfare of greyhounds, and he has assured me, and you've assured me as well, that there is like a sort of federation, isn't there, of people?
Yeah, the Greyhound Rescue, yeah.
Right.
They tend to try and take greyhounds which have either come to the end of their life or become injured in the course of racing, and obviously give them a decent home, try and find homes for them, and there are people that will take them, to look after them afterwards.
Oh, that's great. Thanks very much indeed again, Simon, for joining us.
Enjoyed it.
And it's nice to see the boys again.
Yes,
and he's suffered no ill effects after his castration.
He's
Poor
coping
boy.
it pretty well.
Poor boy. Right, it's BBC GMR, People and Places with me, Umberto. I'm going to be chatting in a moment with Jill Cronin and Frank Rhodes. They are local historians, and Jill is no stranger to the programme because she's a regular contributor to P&P, People and Places, of course, and knows loads about Belle Vue and the area. And she's just looking at me now and frowning a little. She does. She knows everything there is to know. Jill, come over and join me here. She's got books in hand and all sorts of wonderful paraphernalia. Don't forget, if you've got any memories at all about Belle Vue, why not give us a call right now? 0161 228 2255 is the number. We would love to hear from you. Okay, I've got some memories, some fab ones. And you know something, we've got a zookeeper as well, an ex-zookeeper who's going to be joining us a little later on to tell us about the animals and what happened to them, where they went and all the rest of it, and what life was really like at Belle Vue. But first of all, Jill Cronin, welcome to the programme. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Welcome.
You were looking at me with a little bit of trepidation then when I said you're an expert, all-knowing. I'm looking at you as the oracle.
Well, you never know everything, and Belle Vue is very complicated. There are so many aspects to it. Frank and I did quite a lot of research. We've produced a book on Belle Vue.
Oh, have you? So what's the book called?
Belle Vue.
No, it's not called Belle Vue.
So everyone will know what it is.
So it's out in the bookshops now?
Oh, yes, it came out about 2 years ago.
Oh, that's good. So come and join us, Frank. Don't be shy. Frank sat on the sidelines there. He's like the wilting violet. Hardly are you? So how difficult was it to put this book together? Was there lots of information, Frank?
There's that much, and too much.
Is there?
Everybody that you talk to, everybody knows Belle Vue. Literally could have 10 volumes of the book and still not enough.
Now, the history goes back quite some way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When was it first chronicled? Where were the first sort of bits of articles and newspaper pieces? When were the first ones there? When did you see them?
Well, about Belle Vue itself, it started off as a little inn, the Belle Vue Inn, on Hyde Road.
Because this was quite a rural area, wasn't it, as well?
Yes. It was really marshy. They had to drain the land to put the main road through, Hyde Road to Manchester. And that's when the Belle Vue Inn came into being for the people travelling along. But the area where the racetrack is here was actually farmland.
2 farms.
Yeah, 2 farms. Now, somewhere, because I was doing a bit of research, because I like to have a little delve, and I believe that there was some sort of quarry or lime quarry or something I picked up.
I think you're thinking the brickyard.
Oh, is it the brickyard?
Because there were 2 farms on the site.
Yeah.
Higher Cat's Knoll and Lower Cat's Knoll.
Right.
And in 1872, John Jennison, who owned Belle Vue, bought this site and used it to extract the clay.
Right.
Because he made his own bricks for Belle Vue.
And somebody rang in a little bit earlier on, Frank, and was saying there's an American connection as well, because some American guy apparently bought the place and was looking after it. And that's not something that I'd read somewhere.
No, I've not come across that yet.
No, you've not seen that one. Well, maybe that's a new one. It was Lily who phoned us earlier on, because her father used to work here, apparently. He looked after the electric hair. So that was one of the things. Right. But this area has never been an area that was prosperous. It's always been sort of a working class area, hasn't it?
It's been very industrialised, and the fact that Belle Vue came here was really unusual because, like you say, it was in the middle of nowhere to start with, and then railways brought a lot of the people into Belle Vue or into Gorton area, and then Belle Vue just grew and grew and grew, and I was talking to somebody last week, and actually the far ends of Scotland, they were actually on holiday last year, and there's still a billboard up for Belle Vue. You know?
Oh, that'd be wonderful to get hold of, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean...
I tell you, the whole area, again, has gone under just amazing changes, obviously with the Commonwealth Games coming up. So a lot of the points of reference that you had have disappeared now, have they?
Oh, yes, very definitely so. I mean, when you look at the actual Belle Vue site next door, it's a sad sight at the moment.
It is really, isn't it?
You can just about make out where the front gates were in a Hyde Road.
I was, do you know, I almost went into mourning, Jill, when they closed Belle Vue, because for kids like us who sort of live not far away from the city, we lived in the inner city, to us it was like, I don't know, like the Disney World is now in Florida. Yes. It was a fantastic place. It was vibrant. It was wonderful. But going back to when there were 2 farms on this particular site, I mean, what can you tell us about that particular period in history?
Well, from dating from the maps, like I said, there were actually 2 farms on the area plus Belle Vue, the actual Belle Vue Inn. And what was the date on the first farm? Was it?
Well, the 1770s.
So that goes back quite a way.
Oh, yes.
Right, if you're interested in the history of Belle Vue, stay tuned with us, because Jill will be staying here with us, as will Frank, and we'll be learning a little bit more. If you've got any memories of Belle Vue as a child, then feel free to give us a call. 0161 228 2255 is the number. We are live from Belle Vue dog race course, actually. I don't think it's called. It's a Greyhound race course, isn't it? They're celebrating their 75th anniversary today, and as 75 years ago, the weather could be a little bit better than it is, but never mind. If you are on the road, you're travelling anywhere, you'll want to know what the state of play is on the region's roads. So we go over to Rick Bevan at the travel desk now to find out what's going on. Hi, Rick.
Hi. Well, we're not doing it too badly on the roads just now, but
1FD on 95.1 and 104.6 FM. It really could be your voice. BBC GMR.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome. People and places coming today from Belle Vue Greyhound Stadium, but there was a lot more to Belle Vue than the Greyhound Stadium. I mean, it was like a village in itself. It was an industry here on the east side of Manchester. And the strange thing is, you know, sort of, I was saying in the first hour, I drove through and I came through Eastlands, and there's all that regeneration going on. It's sort of got butterflies in my stomach. It's a very exciting place to be. But Belle Vue is no longer here, unfortunately. The zoological park has gone, the fairground has gone, and lots of those landmarks that we remember as children have gone. But if you want to know more about the history of Belle Vue, a book that has been co-written by Jill Cronin and Frank Rhodes, entitled Belle Vue, is available in the shops. I've got both the authors here with me, so we'll be reminiscing a little bit. And we're so lucky to have a gentleman called Colin Southworth with us, and he was an actual zookeeper. How many of us as children would have loved to have been a zookeeper? It must have been fantastic, and I'm sure he's got 1 or 2 stories that he can share with us as well. And we'll be talking to the racing operations manager a little later on in the programme. But please don't forget, if you want your 2 penn'orth, and why shouldn't you? If you've got memories of Belle Vue, then give us a call. 0161 228 2255. That's the number. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the trolley buses that went from Parsonage Gardens in Manchester were the number 77 and the number 75. I may be wrong. If you know any different, let me know. We're looking at our zookeeper to see if he can remember, and I don't think he can either. But we'll be coming back very, very soon indeed to Colin and to Jill and to Frank. It's BBC GMR People and Places with me, Umberto, live from Belle Vue Greyhound Stadium. They're celebrating their 75th anniversary. How brilliant is that? People and Places with me, Umberto, coming from Belle Vue Greyhound Stadium, and we're talking about the history of the place as well. And we've asked lots of you to ring in. Stuart, actually, from Hazel Grove's on the line. Hi, Stuart.
Hi, Umberto.
How are you?
I'm all right, thanks, pal.
Goody good. What are your memories of Belle Vue?
Well, I mean, I've never been a greyhound person, although I've nothing against it.
Sure.
I mean, certainly, to my mind, the mid to late 50s was its heyday.
Like, when you say it's its heyday, so what are the things that stick in your mind?
The zoo was still going, the fairground was in full swing, but
yeah.
My wife and I, well, we were courting then, of course. The King's Hall and the wrestling was the highlight every Saturday, except when the circus was on.
I tell you what, Stuart, wouldn't it be interesting to know how many people did the courting at Belle Vue and met prospective wives and husbands? And it must be incredible. There must be thousands of people in Manchester, wouldn't you say?
Actually, we didn't meet there.
Right.
We met at work. I was an apprentice printer.
Right.
My wife was assigned to me as an assistant.
So what side of Manchester did you live on?
The same area, Hazel Grove.
So you used to travel all the way from Hazel Grove to Gorton then to Belle Vue?
Yeah.
All right, so it must have been worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be packed then. That was anybody who was late teens or early 20s will remember the 50s when Dick the Dormouse Rogers was the referee.
Right. Did you ever see people like, I'm just trying to think, Jackie Pallow and Mick McManus and people like that?
The Pye brothers.
Right.
Dominic and Jack.
Blimey, you're bringing back some memories there.
Les Kelly, Chick Knight from London.
Right.
His wife, Jessie Rogers, was the matchmaker.
I tell you what, we've got a great book here, and it's about Belle Vue, and all those people are featured and more besides as well. There were some strange things went on in Belle Vue, really, weren't there? Right. Well, listen, thank you very much indeed for giving us your memories, and lots of love to you and your wife as well. Yeah. All right, Stuart, thanks a lot.
All right, Umberto.
Cheers, bye-bye. Stan's in Hattersley. Good afternoon, Stan.
Hello.
Are you nice and warm and comfortable where you are?
I am not, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sat out here in the drizzle.
Listen, I was at that place on the opening night. I was about 12.
What? You were here for the opening night?
Yes.
Wow.
And they used to, from the Belle Vue dog trot now,
right.
They used to run right the way down Kirkman Zoom Lane to Pinkburnt Lane. And they used to call that the hayfield.
Fantastic.
And they had all the rockets that come over from the Belle Vue.
Yeah.
They all used to land in there. Most of them used to land in there, you see.
Right.
So that's what the hayfield was for, really. But that particular night, I remember going down to the front stand and seeing all the crowds go in and all that, you know.
Right.
Do you know that the what's it was there before, the Speedway was there before it went to Belle Vue.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
They used to Acorn Dobson and all those places. Whitehead and Waterman and
so
all that.
Is it happy memories then?
Oh, yes. It's very, very good.
Oh, that's good. Listen, well, thank you very much indeed, Stan, for giving us a call. And keep listening, because we've got lots more history coming up, OK? It's BBC GMR 95.1 and 104.6 FM. It's Your Voice, and we're live from Belle Vue Greyhound Stadium. OK, we'll just go to our two historians, because I think the last caller brought some really interesting stuff. Jill and Frank, Jill Cronin and Frank Rose. Now, Frank, he mentioned hayfields, I think. Is that somewhere that's familiar to you?
Hayfields?
The hayfields, I think it's where the rockets landed and all sorts of things, the fireworks.
Yeah. Well, these are the fireworks on the island. And then literally the day after.
Yeah.
Or even the night after. The kids would all go around picking up the rocket sticks and everything. And
spent rockets,
yeah. And
but, you know, Belle Vue was one of those places where they had really odd exhibits at times. I mean, on the front of your book, there's some American Indians there. Who were they?
These were on, I think it was 1903 when Buffalo Bill came to Brooks Bar.
Right.
And it seems a bit strange to bring Indians on a day trip to Belle Vue, but that's what they did. That's what, you know, so...
Quite a landmark then.
Yeah.
And also there's a very special car was exhibited as well, wasn't there?
Oh, in the 1940s they brought Al Capone's car across and for $20,000.
So $20,000 would have been an awful lot of money in those times, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Did it raise a lot of interest?
Oh, yeah, but the thing was it had to be well stored away. I mean, obviously people would view it, but then it was kept in the stables at the back of a lake hotel, which was not the obvious place to look for Al Capone's car, really.
I suppose not. No. Jill, tell me about the geography of the place. How much did it change once Belle Vue sort of got a grip on the area?
It changed tremendously. I mean, it affected transport.
Right.
John Jennison was very keen on attracting day visitors.
Yeah.
And gradually you had 4 or 5 stations serving Belle Vue. And you could come in from so many different entrances. Right. Obviously from the Hyde Road end, but also from the Longsight entrance, which served the Longsight station.
That's sort of at the back of where the main entrance used to be. Yeah.
And you would walk up through gardens, through the long avenue, tree-lined.
Yeah, because there's an Italianate garden there as well, wasn't there?
Well, everything was themed.
Yeah.
Before the days when people talked about themes.
Right.
Even the animal houses were themed. Indian moss, for instance, housed the monkeys. They were fantastic animal houses. Whether they were very good for the animals, I'm not quite sure.
Well, we'll have a word with Colin, I think, in a little while, and we'll find out exactly how the animal husbandry went on. When was the fairground introduced? Was that fairly recently, or...?
The amusements were right at the beginning.
Oh, were they?
Because John Jennison was very keen on everything he could get into his garden.
So where did he get all these ideas from? Had he travelled extensively through America, or...?
Well, he started off in Nottingham, and he was a simple hand-loom weaver, his family.
Incredible.
And he worked in a mill to start with.
Fantastic.
And then came to Manchester and had a very small, similar park at Adswood at the Strawberry Gardens.
Oh, it's incredible.
But he saw the opportunity at Belle Vue, and it just grew and grew and grew.
How many visitors in its heyday did it have?
Tremendous number. I mean, on Bank Holiday Monday, that was the highlight of the year.
Right.
And you're talking about probably about 1 million people.
That's incredible. What was it? Can you remember? I mean, I know from your research. Can you remember how much they used to charge to get into Belle Vue?
It was a very small amount, and you paid perhaps a penny more to stay and see the fireworks.
Well, that sounds very reasonable. Right, seeing as we've got Colin here with us, who was an ex-zookeeper, Colin Southworth. What are your memories of the zoo? Because a lot of people seem to think it wasn't quite up to scratch.
Well, you have to look at the day and age, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. Knowledge wasn't the same as it is today.
Right. So when did you become a zookeeper?
In 1949.
But it was a place that you always went to socialise anyway?
I always went to Belle Vue. I loved Belle Vue. I loved the animals, and I loved going there. I loved the general feeling of the place.
Right.
Because it was so big, you could walk around, and...
There was a definite atmosphere, wasn't there?
There was an atmosphere in Belle Vue.
One of the things I remember, though, about Belle Vue is walking through those gates and the smell of the elephant.
Well,
I know it's not a fabulous memory to have, but it is. I mean, lots of people remember that.
But you might call it the byproducts of all those elephants
produced all those beautiful gardens.
Yeah, there you go, you see. Absolutely.
And Belle Vue had the most wonderful clock.
Right.
Floral clock just inside the old entrance. And most of this was probably used with the elephant byproducts. For want of a better word.
The other things I kind of wanted to ask you, what sort of animals were you looking after at that time?
I was in general, but I stayed in the aquarium a lot of the time. Right. Which wasn't very well known because the bigger animals took precedence, shall we say, over, and the more monkeys, for example, or lions and tigers would take precedence over what you might call a few fishes, you know.
Is my memory serving me well, but couldn't you have elephant rides round?
Oh, yes. Yes, you had elephant rides, yes. And they had a genuine... elephant keeper who was all in his full regalia, and he was in his turban, and I think there's a picture in the Belle Vue book of Phil Fernandez.
Right. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, fabulous picture. Lots of kids round him. Fantastic. Now,
sorry.
It's all right, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to mention the story of the elephant that walked from Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And Maharaja, it's in the book, I believe, part of it. And they walked him from Edinburgh, and the story is that he arrived at a toll gate and they wanted to charge him, and the story is that he just moved the toll gate of his own accord, shall we say. And the picture of the toll gate story is actually in Manchester Art Gallery.
Oh, right. That was something that I wanted to ask you as well, Jill. I mean, like, some of these plates that you've got here, some of the photographs are fascinating. Were they very difficult to get hold of?
Well, the book all started because a friend of Frank's who had died loved Belle Vue and Gorton.
Right.
And he had a tremendous collection of photographs. And we produced the books Gorton and Belle Vue from that collection. But also a lot of the photographs that he had were press photographs. We had to go and contact all the newspapers and the press photographers to get permission to use them.
Sure,
yes. It was quite a search.
That's brilliant. If you've just joined us, this is People and Places with me, Umberto, and we are live from Belle Vue Greyhound Stadium. And we're talking about the history of Belle Vue with Jill Cronin and Frank Rhodes, who have actually co-written a book, and it's a fascinating book. It's available in the shops if you want to know more about Belle Vue's history. Now, Frank, as well, did you find that lots of people came forward when they knew you were writing the book with anecdotal sort of evidence about the place?
Well, it's a strange thing, because I work in people's houses every day.
Right.
And one of the questions while I'm working is, well, did you know Belle Vue? And straight away, no matter where you work, everybody from somewhere knows about Belle Vue, and they've all got a different memory.
It's true.
And
you know, to call it, I mean, I was thinking, because I was telling you sort of like one of the breaks, I had some friends came over from America, and they'd heard about Belle Vue, and they said it was a theme park. Now, theme park, would you not think that was a bit of a grand title for Belle Vue?
Well, depending on what they call theme parks, I mean, originally, I mean, they had the Big Dipper, the Bobs. I mean, the Big Dippers were from America. I mean, it's the idea from America, but compared with other parks at the time, you know, the Bobs and the Scenic Railway were actually monster rides. And so, looking at some of the photographs, it's amazing how they actually stood up on it.
I remember the water chute. That was a bit terrifying. As soon as you walk through the gates.
That's still at Blackpool now.
Oh, is it? Is that the same one?
That's the same one that was at Belle Vue. It was taken down and reassembled at Blackpool.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, Jill, another thing that sort of like struck me is it must have been a great employer for the area as well. I mean, lots of people from this area must have worked there.
Because the Jennisons not only owned Belle Vue, but they owned a lot of the land round about, and the houses of the workers, and also the pubs. The Midland, the Lakes Hotel.
It was almost like a philanthropic thing then, wasn't it? Sort of like you think of mills and places like that where the people were tied into the jobs. But
yes,
I never knew that. That's amazing.
And when the fireworks spectaculars were on, the local people would be the extras. Probably for a pie and a pint, they would act out in the fireworks spectacle. And of course the animals were brought in from the zoo as well to join in.
Well, that sounds very reasonable to me. The sort of stories that come forward, were there any stories that maybe sort of shocked you a little, or, you know, is there anything in the book that was quite shocking, really, or
not shocking?
Is it all very tame?
Well, there were quite a few stories of animals escaping.
So where did they escape
Well,
to?
one was found sitting on a toilet in one of the houses.
What sort of animal was that? I hope it wasn't an elephant.
No, a bit smaller, I think.
Right.
And, one of the snakes escaped, though, and was lost for quite a while. And this story came from the daughter of the head gardener.
That's incredible.
And apparently he was showing people around. And one lady said, "Oh, what's that up there?"
Right.
And he realised immediately it was the snake coiled up in the greenhouse.
If you are that person or you're related to that person, why not give us a call and let us know? Now, we're going to wind up here with the history of Belle Vue, but I just want to tell you the book is available. It's a series called Images of England. It's called Belle Vue, compiled by Jill Corrin and Frank Rhodes. It's available in the shops at £9.99. You can research as much as you like. There's some fantastic stuff there. Thank you both very much indeed for joining us, and a great pleasure to meet one of the zookeepers there, Colin. Thank you very much indeed. You're listening to People and Places, 95.1 on 104.6 FM. BBC GMR 95.1 on 104.6 FM. It's your voice. People and Places today coming from Belle Vue Greyhound Stadium. With me, I have got Mike Smith, who is Racing Operations Manager. Welcome to the show. It's nice to have you here.
My pleasure. Good afternoon, Umberto.
What exactly is a Racing Operations Manager?
Well, it's a title that the GRA, Greyhound Racing Association, the company that have introduced. And my particular role is overseeing the whole of the race meeting 4 nights a week. There's 13 races, each meeting 12 on a Friday.
But you know, there's not even a grey hair in your head. How do you manage it? It must be incredible hard work.
My wife Vivian tells me I need the Grecian boost.
You take no notice of it. I think you're looking very well on it.
Thank
I
you.
mean, it's one of those things, you know, greyhound racing that's been around for quite some time. You know, and I was asking the general manager earlier on how much it's changed. Do you find that in the last few years it's changed an awful lot?
Oh, very, very much so. In fact, I've been in it 36 years, so
really?
It's nearly half of the history, life duration of the business.
Right.
I came into it when I was 15 years old.
What was the attraction initially?
Strangely enough, I was at school, and a very close friend those days, his father had 2 greyhounds that ran locally, and 14 years old, he just asked me, would I like to go to the meeting to watch them? Fortunately enough, I had a little bit of pocket money, I think.
Don't tell me you were gambling when you were a young lad.
I called it a flatter. Anyway,
disgraceful.
So with that, I caught the bug, and it's stayed with me ever since.
Now, I don't know anything about greyhound racing, so I don't know how the betting system works. Is it a difficult one? Is it quite easy to put a bet on?
It can be complex now because we've introduced jackpot pools. There's forecast bets, which is choosing the first and second in either order. That's been stretched now to a trio pool, which is 1, 2, 3 in any order. There are a lot of combination bets, and with the jackpot in particular, we had one just 2 or 3 months ago that went up to 40,000.
That's incredible. Now, tonight's a very exciting time for the stadium. It's the 75th anniversary, and one of the races is one of the richest races that's ever been run in Britain, isn't it?
Well, it is the richest one-off race. It's a marathon, 875 metres, £7,500 to the winner. It's not strictly an open race where trainers enter their dogs.
Yeah.
I've actually invited them, and I've chosen the best 6, in my opinion.
That was something I wanted to ask you. Where do you get the dogs from? Do they come from all over the country?
They do.
And how do they enter a race?
Well, this standard, it's called an invitation race, as I just said. So I invited them. But normally, if we have big nights, these sort of races are advertised to trainers, and they just phone up, enter, and then we choose on merit the best 6 to take part in the race.
Do you have regulars here? Have you got lots of regular customers?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there are. I don't actually.
You don't get involved in that side of things? All you're bothered about is the track and making sure that the dogs run okay.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know, actually, either, I mean, looking at it, that the dogs run on sand. I always thought it was a grass race course.
But it used to be, years ago, up to about 15, 20 years ago, they used to run on turf. But that was only 2 nights a week. And with the introduction of 3, 4 meetings a week, the greyhounds were sustaining more and more injuries.
Right.
So we thought the safest surface would be sand. Peat has been tried as well.
Has it?
Sand is.
Oh, well, that's not very sort of like correct at the moment, Pete. We're trying to conserve all the peat, so we're glad that you're using sand. Listen, all that's left for me to say is I wish you the best for tonight as well. Are you going to be around? Are you?
I certainly will be.
Maybe a glass of wine, maybe.
Yeah, I'll find time.
I'm sure. Mike Smith, thank you very much indeed. That's the operations manager here at Belle Vue Greyhound Stadium. And if you're coming down tonight, you're going to have a fantastic night. It'll be brilliant. Now, Belle Vue isn't only popular with people in Britain. I know we've all got our memories of the place, especially if you're from Manchester. But would you believe a gentleman called David Boardman lives and works in Canada? But you know something? He runs a local history website all about Belle Vue. And he's joining me now. Hello, how are you?
Just fine. How are you, Alberto?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. All the way from Canada. What's the fascination with Belle Vue?
It's a fairly long story, but I grew up in Longsight.
That's not a Longsight accent.
Well, I grew up in Longsight and the sort of triangle between Kirkham-Zoom Lane, New Bank Street, and Stockport Road, an area that has basically disappeared off the face of the earth and been rebuilt in the 1960s.
Right.
My father worked at Belle Vue for a period of time while we lived there.
What did he do?
Well, I think he was just basically a general labourer.
Right.
He was involved in just about everything, including the firework displays and the circus and a number of things. And back in 1999, I started a website about Longsight. I wanted to do something about documenting the history of the place, especially since the part of Longsight I grew up in has essentially disappeared forever, and everybody who lived there is spread all around the world.
Sure. I mean, you moved to Canada in 1968, so Belle Vue was still going at that time, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Belle Vue started out, my website on Belle Vue started out as one page in the Longsight site. And,
right.
It became so big after a period of time that it became a website of its own.
Became a monster, did it?
It did, just took off.
You've still got family, though, in the area, haven't you?
Yeah, I have a sister who lives in Romilly, just near Stockport, and I have lots of friends who still live there. In fact, I mean, the reason why I actually, you say I have a website about Belle Vue. I actually have 7 websites about Manchester.
Really?
And one of them is Longsight, one of them is Belle Vue. And a lot of that is down to people who live in Manchester still and live in other parts of the world who sent me information and photographs. A bloke called Les Cotton who lives in Norden, just outside Rochdale.
Right.
Is a walking encyclopedia of this place. And it's been
Do you get lots of hits on your website?
I think we must, because we get tons of email. We get lots of letters from all around the world. I mean, the thing about Longsight is that the people who live there, most of them in the area I live, moved in the 60s.
Right.
Forcibly moved because the place was demolished. And a lot of them moved in other places in Manchester, but many of them moved to places like Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. And they seem to be thrilled to bits with an opportunity to go back and visit Belle Vue and go back and visit Longsight on the internet.
There's nothing like reminiscing, though, is there? I mean, it sort of makes you feel nice and warm inside. When was the last time you were here, David?
Oh, actually, it's nothing that long ago. It was April.
What do you think about the regeneration of Eastlands now? Obviously, all the big stages going up ready for the Commonwealth Games. Did you manage to have a look at all that?
Oh yeah. I was in Manchester for a month last year, and again this April for a month, and spent most of my time travelling around. Manchester's a funny place. I mean,
I hope you mean that in a nice way.
Well, I do.
Good.
You know, it's like, I mean, there's a bloke called Colin Schindler who wrote a book called Manchester United Ruined My Life.
Right.
And it's a story about a Jewish kid growing up in Manchester as a City supporter.
Yeah.
And one of the things he says about Manchester is that when people ask him where he lives, he has to say London. When people ask him where his home is, he says Manchester. And that's essentially how I feel about the place. I'm very fond of the place. But it reminds me in a lot of ways of what it was like, must have been like for mothers bringing up their kids in the 50s in a place like Longsight. I mean, they went to an awful lot of trouble to try and make sure your clothes were clean.
Sure.
And that you were washed. And 2 seconds after you were out on the street, you were as scruffy as could be.
And David, the other thing as well is they always had fabulous windows, bright white nets on the windows, and the step was always nice and clean as well. Those are the trademarks of Manchester, aren't they?
Well, they are. But, you know, in a way, it's a sort of symptomatic of what Manchester's like. It doesn't seem to matter how much effort we go to make it posh and clean and fancy, it still has a sort of scruffy edge to it. And that's not something to denigrate. It's what it is. It's a northern city, and it's got a bit of a hard edge to it, and it's home. You know, and it'll always be home for me.
I think sometimes we try very hard to emulate sort of places in America and try to emulate London, but Manchester is a one-off. It's one on its own, definitely, and I couldn't agree with you more. When's your next visit?
Oh, probably not till next year.
Well, I'll tell you, next time you come, we'll extend an invitation at the BBC. Come in and have a chat with us.
All right, we will do that.
All right, David, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Okay.
Okay, what's your website? By the way, before you go, what's your website address?
Well, there's 2 ways you can get there.
Right.
If you go to BBC Manchester Online, and go to the net guide,
right.
They've got 6 of my websites listed in there. You just click on them and go to them.
Right, brilliant.
If you want to go to the Belle Vue one, you can just use a simple address, which is travel.to, in all in lowercase letters. So travel.to, that's just T-O, / Belle Vue, with a capital B and a capital V, but all one word.
That's brilliant.
Travel to Belle Vue.
Fantastic, David. Well, look forward to meeting you when you come over. Until then, be happy, as you Americans say, or Canadians, or whatever. Okay, see you. Bye. That's David Boardman. He's the website man, of course, and all the way, would you believe, over in Canada. I mean, he gets lots of hits, so there must be people who, I don't know, left Manchester years and years ago, and sometimes like to think, well, you know, let's see what it was like, those lovely memories. If you've got any memories, why not give us a call, 0161 228 2255.